Hi there, and welcome to another edition of my transition vlog. Now, the last video I shared with you was a video talking about the first time that my mum saw me as Katie. So I thought it'd be quite good to actually do another video just talking about the wider issues with family and how families cope with having a transgender member of their family. Now with me today is Liz, and now Liz has got a daughter who is transgender, so I thought it'd be quite good if she could share her story with you. So hi Liz.
Hi.
So thanks ever so much for coming along.
That's
so
all right.
Do you want to tell me a bit more about your story?
Yes, I had two children, one who's now 31, a girl, and one who is now 28, who was born a boy and is now transgender. So it was about a year ago that my son sent a text to me and to his sister and to his father, who I'm not with now. I've divorced and remarried, but we got this text quite early on in the day, and basically saying that he is transgender.
Well, so you found out by text?
I did indeed, yeah.
Wow.
And it's interesting, you know, because on the face of it, you would think that's not very good to do it like that, and it's better face to face. But there are advantages, because my initial reaction, which actually wasn't that bad, I was able to be as I was without causing any issues. I mean, it's also relevant that neither of the now grown-up children live at home. So I just got up one morning and looked at my phone, and there was this text. And there was no sign before whatever.
Really?
No.
Yeah. I couldn't send a text like that to my mum because she can't pick up texts.
No.
To do it,
so anyway, my gut reaction was to respond and say that I would be there for him. I thought I can sort all the rest out at a later stage.
Well, that's a good reaction.
And I would say I'm still sorting it out just over a year later.
Wow.
So basically I went in and told my husband, and I was just sort of trying to process it in my head a little bit. But I thought, you know, something, I don't have to sort it out all at once. I happened to be preaching that day, because I do lay preaching, and I managed to carry on as normal. But a lot's happened, obviously, on the way. I managed to arrange to see my son, as was then, that evening. And we had a conversation, the sort of which you wouldn't normally expect to have with your kids. Talking about all sorts of stuff. And it turned out that it had been an issue since he was 13. And we were totally oblivious to it.
This is it, because the thing is, you keep it so hidden because you have all that shame, and you know you don't want to be trans, and then it takes a while for the trans person to actually admit it to themselves that they're trans. I mean, it's taken me 48 years to to get there. So at least your daughter, as she is now, at least she's done it at an earlier age than me.
Yeah, true, and actually still a later age than a lot. And I'm eternally...
How old is she now?
She's 28.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So I'm actually really grateful that it's happened as an adult, because I can sort of be sure that it's right for now her. I think, you know, your own children. And certainly, as she was, she never actually took anything lightly. And so I have to believe that this is right. And that's why I'm going with it. I've got lots of stuff to sort out for myself, and it's a journey for everybody involved, but it's one that we take as it happens, a day at a time.
Yeah. And how have you found the rest of the family who've coped with it?
On the face of it, okay, but what it's like in reality we still don't know, because none of them, apart from my husband, have met the new person.
Right.
They
okay.
know about it, and we've told people over a period of time. So I started off telling my brother, and then everything I did with permission, because it's important that it's done with knowledge and with agreement. I mean, well, if we call her Samantha, which is not her real name,
Sure. Yeah.
okay, she told her friends, she told me and her dad and sister first, but then she told friends, and the friends have actually been fine, which I found very encouraging, because it's at times like this that you need your friends,
Oh,
and when you need your family.
And it's times like this that you find out who your real friends are as well.
Definitely.
I've certainly found that out.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
And then as far as family goes, because Samantha doesn't see them very often, it's been bit by bit, really, and because we don't see them very often either,
No.
it's been a case of what's the best way of telling people, and it's different ways for different people.
Sure.
For most of them, I've rung them up and told them, and I think there's only one who's found it difficult, but nevertheless been really good, you know.
Good.
One of them said, I'm 70, I'm not used to all this stuff. And they used to be a headmaster. And you would have thought they might have come across this at school, but
Yeah.
I don't think they had. But nevertheless, that nobody has been in any way antagonistic or difficult. But the challenge, I think, we still haven't had a gathering where family and Samantha have been together.
Yeah.
But last year was the first Christmas where I did female Christmas presents.
Right.
And I have to say, it was a lot easier than doing male Christmas presents.
It's a lot more fun.
So the way I put it is, instead of aftershave and suits, it is perfume and dresses.
Yeah. You can't go wrong with those.
No.
Definitely not. Yeah. So, and for men, so often they've got everything that they want, and what else do you get them? But with women, there's always something else, isn't there?
Yeah, women are much easier.
Definitely. Yeah.
And we're being very genderist and sexist.
I'm with you on that too. Right. Yeah. Okay. And what I'd like to do now is sort of explore some of the other relationships within the families. Now,
yeah.
Within my family, there's some of my family members who unfortunately I can't talk about and I can't name just for legal reasons. So what I'm going to do is sort of generalise on sort of the experiences I've heard through some of my friends in the trans community. Now, in terms of partners, wives or husbands, unfortunately, in this situation, most marriages fail. Some do stay together, but the ones that I've heard of that generally tend to stay together, it can either be there's just three main reasons. One is that the non-trans partner is bisexual or pansexual, and then obviously they can be attracted to the trans partner in the opposite gender. Another one would be if actually they're disabled and they actually rely on their trans partner for a lot of help, and okay, it's the wrong reason to stay together, but they've got something to lose there, and so you can understand it. And then the other one is if they're just not bothered about sex and they're more into the companionship side of it, and that's another valid reason, and that's fair enough. So they're sort of three main reasons. There are obviously some other reasons anyway, because everyone's individual, but they're the ones that have cropped up quite regularly for when I've been talking to my trans friends. So that's the sort of on that's partner side of things. The other thing is with children, how children cope with it, and again, generally from the research that I've done and talking to other trans friends, children under the age of 10 seem to cope with it much better than over the age of 10. Now, under 10, they don't come with any prejudice or anything, and they just tend to sort of accept it and get on with it. And yes, they'll have problems along the way, but generally they tend to accept it much better. Over 10, obviously they've got their own issues coming on. They have puberty and all the rest of it, and their own teenage angst that goes with it. I know when I look back to what I was like as a teenager, I was horrible. I was terrible. So they have all their own issues. So so that's sort of speaking very generally of that. But I think with any sort of member of the family, I think there tends to be a grief process that they go through, because they feel as if they're losing the person that they knew, even though they haven't lost me. I know, like, my mum sort of feels like that, as if she's lost Martin. Well, in a way, she's lost Martin, but she's got Katie, and I'm still the same person, although I look different. So, but there is that grief process. But we were talking earlier on, and you said that hasn't necessarily been the case.
Not to that degree.
No.
At the beginning, you do sort of find yourself thinking, I think it depends on what children you've got. And because I had one of each, the fact that one of them is changing means that you are losing the one you had. And that, yes, is an issue. But for some reason, I mean, because I'm somebody with a faith, I really believe that's helped me a lot, really. And I find that it's been a fairly smooth process. So there was one night where I felt I really didn't want to let go of my son. But having said that, it's about moving forward, because this is going to happen. So for me, and I don't really think there are ever two cases that are the same.
No, of course.
It's been a case of gradually letting, let's call him Anthony, go, and getting to know Samantha.
And I think that's it. I mean, I think like with in the case with my mum, she's only seen me as Katie the once, so she doesn't really know Katie that well. Because obviously, when I speak to her on the phone a lot, because I sound the same on the phone, I still sound like Martin on the phone.
And I've got that too.
And it's going to take a while for me to get my voice sorted out.
It doesn't help, but
No.
It's how it is.
Yeah.
We had our first outing as a family in July when my older daughter graduated, and that was a big thing, actually being out in public and just being together, and for me it was lovely, because it was the first time I'd got the two girls together in the same place, and had a photo of the pair of them.
Lovely,
which I was really wanting to happen, because then I could actually put it on Facebook and people can find out or make their own suppositions about what's what, really. Because
your girls.
That's right,
Lovely,
But I'm still getting used to it, because when I see her now, and she only lives a couple of miles down the road, she actually moved back from Gravesend in Kent in July last year. And I think that's possibly, there was reason in the move, and we still don't see each other regularly, probably once or twice a month, which is more than we used to. And when I'm with her, I'm still not 100% there. She definitely looks like a girl. There's no two ways about it. And I believe that's something that's very important. But it's because I'm mum that it's taking a while for me to get to that place where I fully accepted Samantha. I am accepting, but I haven't got there, because it's a lot to get your head around.
Of course,
when you've known somebody for, well, in my case, 28 years. As somebody else, and when it happened, I've been very glad that we've had a transition period. So we found out in October last year, and the actual full-time transition took place in May.
Okay.
And so having that 7 months has helped a lot. And it's weird because over that 7 months, when we were meeting up, I didn't know who I was going to see because sometimes she was Samantha and sometimes she was Anthony.
Yeah.
But now from May, which was when it was her birthday, I now know it's always Samantha.
Yeah, yeah.
So
well, at least you know what to expect now, don't you?
I
so
do
you
indeed.
know that, yeah.
But we've still got the voice. So if we have a phone call, you know, it still sounds like Anthony. And that's the last bit left. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And I'm just moving forward, taking it a week or a day at a time and going with it, because I know at some point in the future, be it days, weeks or years or months or whatever, it will be as if it's always been Samantha. But you know, that's not there yet.
Yeah. So some of the barriers I've found that have been put in the way have generally been, there's been two big things that have come up. One thing, it tends to be age. So it tends to be the older generation who have struggled with it more. But I suppose you can understand it when you think about when I look back to when I was growing up in the 70s. It was a scandal if anyone said they were gay. Nobody ever talked about transgender issues. So you go back older generations, and obviously it's that much harder because nobody ever spoke about that sort of thing. So I can sort of understand that. And the other thing is religion, actually, and which I think would be quite an interesting thing to talk about, because I've had big problems with my sister, because my sister years ago went off to become a born-again Christian, and she's very evangelical and sort of very strongly religious in that way. And unfortunately, she's not on the phone deliberately. The only way that I can contact her, she lives down in Kent, and the only way that I can contact her is by letter. So I wrote a letter to her over 7 months ago to tell her about my transition, and I basically heard nothing back from her. So I don't know whether I'm ever going to hear from her again. I suspect I probably won't, which would be really sad, because we had a great childhood, and it would be a real shame if I don't hear from her again. She's had a couple of birthdays, and her son and her husband had birthdays, and I sent cards and presents. And in the card I put the notes of saying, "Did you get my letter in April?" And nothing at all back. And then she did actually go down to see my mum about 3 weeks ago on a rare visit, and I know they discussed me then, so I know that she knows. And I still heard nothing, so I decided to write to her again and just basically, effectively, give her an ultimatum, just say, look, I'm disappointed that I haven't heard from you. I could really do with some support at this sort of time. It's a difficult time in my life, and I don't know whether I'll never hear from you again. But if I don't, then I just want you to know that I'm never going to close my door to you. And so if at some point you do decide that you change your mind and you do want to contact me, then you know where I am. And I thought, well, there's not a lot more I can do.
You can't do much more apart continue to send cards and do what you've always done.
Yeah.
Because that shows the door's still open, doesn't it?
But I think a lot of people use their religion as a way of justifying their bigotry or prejudice. But it's interesting because you yourself, you're a born-again Christian, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely.
So it just shows you can't generalise and just say, born-again Christians do that. And
No.
And yet, I know you've been doing great work actually within the church, haven't you? Just to try and bring them on board, and because obviously there's varying degrees of acceptance or non-acceptance within the church.
Yes, there is.
And I know you've been doing some sterling work, haven't you? There.
Well, yes. I mean, the day I found out, I wanted to meet Anthony at lunchtime. I was preaching. It wasn't easy, obviously, because it was one of those big life moments that most people would want to make sense of, but I had to go and do it, and I did it. And he was working at the time, so I went to my home church on the way home, and I grabbed the minister and I told him, and actually I told the guy at the church I preached at as well, because I just thought, do you know something? I'm not ashamed. This is happening. It's a fact. And also, it's like a family event. So if people get engaged or married or have kids or whatever else, people tell people. So I treated it like that. And so I told my minister, who was really lovely and just listened, you know. And then I've told people over a period of weeks and months, because I go to quite a big church, and just being open and normal and natural about it. And it's actually enabled a number of people there to talk about their own situations. And there must be at least half a dozen who have come out and told me that they have family who are gay or bisexual or trans, and probably wouldn't have had the opportunity otherwise.
I found that in the circles that I'm in, with business groups and all sorts of things, and people sort of feel that because I've been open with them, then they feel that they can then trust me with their story as well. So
yes,
yeah, it's interesting. They do feel comfortable talking to me about that. So
statistically, there must be, I don't know, there must be a number of gay people in our church, for example.
Oh yeah,
but I don't know anybody who's gay in our church. All right, so they've not been open, or if they have, it's in very close circles. And I've, over the months, got to know different people, and I had my story published on the Baptist Union website anonymously.
Yeah, it's an excellent article, by the way.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for sending it through to me.
Yeah,
it's really
so
good.
if anybody wants to see it, it's called Journeying with Samantha, and it's on the Baptist Union website. And that has opened a few doors too. And as I said at the beginning, it wasn't a path I would have chosen, if I'm honest. But it is a path that is...
None of us choose this.
No, none of us choose it. That's really important to get across.
Absolutely. No one chooses to be trans.
No, nobody chooses... No. You know, so I didn't choose to have a trans daughter, but I've got one. And I'm the sort of person who wants to raise awareness of things when they come into my life, really. And I've always been somebody who wants to support and help. And I think that God's using me to do this. And I'm taking it carefully and cautiously. I'm not going all hell-bent and leather, you know.
Yeah.
But there are things that are happening, and taking it a bit at a time, really.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, thanks ever so much for coming in and having the chat and sharing your story with us. I think it's been brilliant. I think it's been a really good chat.
Yes.
And thank you very much for watching. You know, hopefully it's been interesting. I know it's probably been quite a long vlog, but I think there was some important issues that we needed to discuss, and I wanted to sort of show that it wasn't just all about the physical side of things, the process of transition. There's a lot in terms of family relationships, and certainly the family side of it has been the hardest bit. I mean, the friends and clients in the main have been absolutely fantastic, but yeah, family's been quite tricky.
It has been in your case, hasn't it?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, but I say thanks very much for watching, and hope to see you on the next vlog.